There he is.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I was in the middle. Alex Hooper. So my girlfriend asked for people to send me mail for my birthday because I love getting the mail. And Alex Hooper sent me like a 3-page letter that I was in the middle of. This is crazy. He's the greatest.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to type you a letter.
Do it.
Yeah, with the old trusty Rusty right here.
Man, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's fucking nice, dude. I haven't seen a proper typewriter in a long time.
It was one of those eBay purchases, like in the middle of the night. You're like, fuck it.
Yeah. I have I've been writing on this thing called a Neo 2. Have you ever heard of those?
Mm-mm.
It's like it's basically an electric typewriter, but super minimalist, where it's just the keys and then it has a little screen for only the words.
Okay.
So I can write my my morning pages in that and not be so distracted by the internet.
Yeah, I write my morning pages in this. So
good man. You know the value of not being distracted.
Yeah. Is that the one that looks like a Kindle screen, kind of like black and white? And it's just a keyboard attached to it, and that's it?
Yes, but it's much smaller. It's here, I'll text it to you right now. I'll send you the thing.
I'll try and see if I can get my editing up to par and put a little picture of what it is.
It is great. And they stopped making them. When did they stop making the Neo 2s? I have no idea. My girlfriend is the one who ordered it. She technically got it for herself, and then I've just been using it. I've been co-opting it much more than she has.
I like how you said using, and she just chimes in, co-opt.
Yeah. She knows what I did.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Jay Light, thanks for doing the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I just finished listening to your album. Great album.
Thank you.
I listened to it on Spotify, so you'll have at least one more play on each song, courtesy of today.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
Yeah. What made you decide this was the time to release it?
I had been talking to the label, so I released it. It's a co-release between 800 Pound Gorilla and All Things Comedy, and we were talking whenever we finally got it, all worked out, about when would be a good time, and we figured about now is going to be good anyway, just because in a lot of ways people are starting to like go back to work and listen to stuff more.
Right.
And I mean, the timing of it being, officially being released the day after my birthday.
Oh, happy belated.
Or day before my birthday, rather. It's very crazy. Today, it's the actual birthday's today, so.
Oh, you were potting on your birthday?
Time.
Oh my God, I feel special.
It's very. Hey, listen, you're the only podcast I'm making time for today. I'm saving the rest for myself.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I saw you was released through 800 Pound Gorilla. It's very well mixed. Like your voice, as a former audio engineer myself, your voice is very level and even. It sounded great in the car.
That's it's all Coach T's doing.
Oh, no wonder. Coach T is the man.
Yeah, he produced it. He was a great collaborator on this album because he's the one, we both talked when I asked him to produce the album for me, we'd been talking about ways to make it feel different. Cause the one thing I really wanted was to not just feel like another album of white guy telling jokes, you know? And so it was through his, his collaborative and his great, his creative genius that we were able to get, figured out how to do the sketches and the roast battle and all of the beats and stuff, the sampling. He did all of that himself. So I'm really, and of course, we recorded it too when we did the stand-up portion live. So I'm really happy with the way it all turned out. But the album wouldn't be what it is without Coach. So big shout out to him.
Coach T is the man. He's calling him the DJ for Roast Battle is not, he's so much more than that. He's a part of the show. His sound effects and how fast he's able to trigger stuff during battles is like mind-blowingly awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was listening to the album, it did remind me a bit of that's the one downside about Spotify. There's no album notes. So I'm just guessing. I was like, all right, well, I'll ask Jay when I have him on the pod who did what. And it reminded me of Chris Rock's album in a way, like the little sketches, the way the music came in and out. And it makes so much sense because Coach T also worked on that album.
Yeah. It was that was him. And that was the part of the thing too, is like I knew, having heard his work for Chris Rock's album and then for Jamar's album a couple years ago, I was like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I want it to feel like this.
And then about 2/3 of the way through, the album kind of transitions into one of your roast battles, and you're a legendary roast battle champ of the Comedy Store. What made you choose to put it that point in the album?
It felt like it was a nice break in the action, because the way I'd thought about structuring the album, all I really thought about was the stand-up at the time when I did the actual recording. I knew that there was going to be a roast battle in there somewhere, but the way the set kind of structured is there is sort of a midpoint, and I think putting the roast battle there, it signals kind of a shift too, of like, all right, so we've gotten a lot of sort of the bullshitting out of the way, and then the roast battle hits, and then the material on the album becomes much darker after that.
Right.
So I think it just kind of, it was the perfect spot for it to be, where it comes out off of this very silly, joke about the word problems joke, and then it goes into the roast battle, and then we had the sketch with the teacher in there too. That was the best. That was how we thought, like, all right, how can we bridge from this point being the midpoint of the album to get into the roast battle smoothly?
Right. It's kind of like Act 1, Act 2 in a way.
Yeah.
Did you play around with it? Were you like, all right, let's try it here, let's try it there? Or did it just, you tried it at that spot and where you put the roast battle and it just worked right away?
It pretty much just worked right away. We didn't actually have really a whole lot of reordering of anything that had to happen. We tried putting at the very end, we had that sketch, the close of the priest stuff come in at a different spot.
Okay.
And then after listening to it, there was a piece of the album, a piece of the set that it basically amounts to being like a bonus track, the way it's included on the album, where it's like the final part of the Jesus sex ed joke.
Right.
But we originally didn't even have that on there, and then I just missed it. And so I was like, all right, let's figure out how we can incorporate the sketch and have it lead directly into this little extra piece of the bit, and then we can smoothly end.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. It sounds like you probably listened to the album much more than 10 times, 15, 20 maybe.
Man, I mean, well, doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival to prep for the album too. Like,
oh, nice.
I had heard the material and run through the material so many times, just, doing it live and then listening back to the sets the next day. I'm really glad that I was able to record it right after I came back from Fringe, because then it was basically as tight as it was ever going to be. I think.
And was that done in the Belly Room?
No, I did that at the Pack Theater.
Oh, okay. Nice. How many shows?
Yeah. Just one.
Oh, dude, you killed it for one show. It all worked out.
Yeah, it all worked out. I was hoping, I wanted to do two, but it all worked out for one.
Oh, that's amazing.
God.
Yeah. I liked how you throw in a lot of like French words in there. You got like your Camembert and your Notre Dame. And for a guy who you talk a lot about Texas, you got the pretty good French accent in there.
Oh, thank you. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, most Americans will hit you with the Notre Dame, the Camembert, and you're kind of throwing that extra sauce on there as a French speaker. So,
well, maybe it was because I'd been just hanging out with a bunch of European folks anyway. Maybe my my accent game is a little stronger.
A little stronger. Yeah, you don't have the Texas accent.
Yeah, I've never had a Texas accent. I think part of it is because the part of Texas I grew up in around Dallas, there's not really a whole lot of people with accents there, like in the way that you'd expect like a stereotypical twang or a drawl.
Yeah.
That I always associate more with like South and West Texas.
Right. Yeah, I'm from Vancouver, which is like the west part of Canada, and we don't have the Canadian accent either. If anything, we're more California-ish, just West Coast. But if you go
Okay.
to the center of Canada, that's where you hear like the more stereotypical like oohs and ahs and aboots.
Right, right.
Yeah. It's also leaving a place too. Like when you grew up, well, for me at least, when I grew up, I was like, oh, no one has a Canadian accent. That's stupid. And then you
Hmm.
leave for a few years, call home, and you're like, oh no, everyone has an accent.
Yeah, that's I definitely notice a little bit more of it now whenever I'm like calling, talk to my folks or anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had family all across the South for years. Most of my family still lives somewhere in either Texas or somewhere else in the South. So
Right.
I definitely do hear that still. I get my fair dose of Southern drawls anytime I talk to them.
Right. That makes sense. And we met at the Comedy Store, which is now in what seems like permanent hiatus, but hopefully we'll be back soon. And,
Yeah, hopefully.
and it was at a time when you were transitioning, I get out of working there full time into like a writing gig.
Yeah, I was. So I worked at the Comedy Store for about 5 years as a
Hmm.
door guy, and my last full year that I worked at the Comedy Store, I started getting TV writing jobs. So I was doing the double dip, which was hellish on my body because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hours were so different. But then I got out at last February and started working as a television writer and stand up full time. So it's been that's the crazy thing too, is it's been over a year since I made that decision, and now I mean all I really have is the writing jobs,
Yeah.
just because I can't. I mean, who knows when the next time we'll be able to do like regular stand up again.
Yeah. It
It-
seems far off at this point.
yeah, I've done a couple shows here and there, a couple Zoom shows, a couple
Yeah.
live shows, but it's just, I mean, everything is so strange in California with the way that, like, I've seen places all over the US where like outdoor shows are happening, and
Yeah.
parking lots of comedy clubs are opening back up, or it's city parks are having shows. So it does hurt a little bit to see all of that elsewhere,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think California will be at a place where that's going to be happening more often relatively soon.
Hopefully. I mean, New York
Fingers
just got shut
crossed.
down. So it's like, I was envious of New York for a while. I was like, wow, they're really doing a lot of park shows. And I mean, in Canada, the clubs are back open. I think Yuck Yucks is open up there.
Yeah,
And
I talked to Abby Roberge, and he was like, "I've done 30 sets in
oh my,
Canada since I've been back." I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so jealous.
yeah, I know. It seems like it's worthwhile to go up there for a bit, especially if you can. But yeah, it's a tough time. I hope California's in a weird place because we were like so proud of ourselves for a while, and then we just opened up fast and everything went away, and now we're like the problem child of America.
Yeah, it's a real interesting switch to see how confident we were,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden to know as a human, like, this is where we went wrong. And I think there's a lot of people on the ground level, not in the government, who are like, oh my, we knew this was going to be bad. Like, as soon as they open the bars, people can't handle it.
Yeah, yeah. It was so exciting when it opened up. Like just that weekend, it was like everything's open. It felt like we're coming out of a war and we did it. And then just to watch it just go all bad. But
Hmm.
we're here. We're getting through it. I did one Zoom show, and I'm gonna try doing a park show at some point. But it's hard when you don't get like the consistent reps. You do a one off, and you're like, all right, well, 2 weeks before the next one, or
Right.
yeah. I even thought about bringing back the comedy bunker. I was like, I'll move it outside, put people up there, but then it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel like it's safe yet.
Right. Yeah. I think it's the kind of thing where, like, I mean, I've been helping produce a version of Roast Battle that we've been doing during quarantine, and we
Oh, okay.
just started shooting back at the Comedy Store again.
Oh, nice.
And it's cool, but like, it's extremely different because we don't have an audience,
Hmm.
and everybody has to be spaced, as far enough apart. Per production guidelines, it's 8 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's working. Like, we finally have all the technical aspects of it down, but now we are figuring out like, all right, what are the things that we can do to make the show exciting
Yeah.
and make it feel at least as good as it's going to be for the time being. We're starting to get to that point, but it's the craziest thing. It's like, how do we do it? I think safety is the priority first,
For sure.
because I would rather produce a show safely and work out the kinks for a little bit than try and do something that winds up putting people in danger, even if it's more looking like or feeling like what I'm used to, because nobody's doing anything that they're used to right now. So we got to adapt.
Yeah. And that seems like one of the easiest shows, or not easiest, but like they would translate well online, because it's like, you know what you're watching. Like, all right, it's this versus that. And you can kind of, there's like a plot and a theme, where stand up, it's like, especially if you don't know the comic, it's like you really got to be led into it. And if there's technical issues out the front, you kind of like lose focus.
Mm-hmm.
But the theme of Roast Battle is so strong, I feel like it would keep people's attention.
Yeah, I think, the people who are the diehard fans of Roast Battle, who've been with us since the very beginning when we started streaming it, are, some of them are like just happy that the show still exists.
Yeah.
And some of them are really like, oh, what is this? This is garbage. And it's just like, well, what do you want from us? Like, we can't do anything about the circumstances.
Yeah.
We'd rather give you guys something than nothing.
Right. And you're also going worldwide, so you're getting new fans.
Yeah.
And when it comes back, like, and people come and visit Roast Battle in LA when it was on, it was almost like a pilgrimage, because they've heard about it. It's the original place at the store where it started. And you're just expanding the audience. But also you're expanding your trolls. So you're going to get people.
Right. Well, that's the fun thing now. So we're starting to figure out ways to enhance and like lean into what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're definitely starting to amp up like the pro wrestling aspects of the show. Like last night we did a show where at the end of it, a battler came upstairs and did like a call out of another battler on camera. Very, very like Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And it was great. And it's just like, this is the kind of shit we need. And we're having like, I'm reading off the comments live as we get them on our live streams. And there's a lot of people like roasting the battlers, but there's also people who are trolling us in the comments. And so, but like even reading off that, like we had somebody last night who's obviously a big fan of the show. Like he's watched us, he's bought our merch, and he wrote in the comments, hey, I bought a Roast Battle face mask. Can I use it as a noose? After watching just the show, I was like, all right, dude.
Take it easy.
We'll read that off in the air. Why not?
Yeah. But, he's also did it for that exact reason, to get recognition.
Exactly.
Trolls want recognition, so
you
recognize them on air. And this aired yesterday, or shot yesterday?
Shot and aired yesterday, and then we just put it up on the Roast Battle YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
Remastered.
Oh, fantastic. And do you guys stream through YouTube or Twitch or both?
YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch.
Okay. 1 cam, 3 cams?
We do 4 camera right now. So we have a camera on the battlers as a wide. Then we have Moses on 1 camera, and then the judges are on another camera, and then I'm on the 4th camera.
Nice. And you got a guy switching? Or girl?
Yeah, we got one of the Comedy Store guys, Mike Schmidt. He's running our switcher board, and then I'm filling in basically as Coach T, doing music and sound drops.
Okay.
Because Coach is too busy to be able to come in regularly right now. He's got a lot going on. I mean, obviously, Coach is a wonderful producer and a great. And he's made his bones. He doesn't need to come through for our little weird live stream show. We're happy to. We can wait for him to feel comfortable enough to come back.
But that's still quite the production, just to get the technical logistics 8 feet apart. Are you doing in the belly room?
In the belly room.
So in the small room, 8 feet apart, switching cameras. That's a big production.
It's definitely it's cool to be able to run it, and I think there's a lot more comics who, if they were smart about anything during this, if they didn't have some of the skills to like operate OBS or know how to like work audio or figure out a podcasting setup, now's the time to figure that out. And so that's a lot of what I did during the very beginning of this was figure out how to use OBS properly and
Yeah.
what kind of camera to set up with and stuff?
Yeah, I just set up OBS last week for a live stream, and I wanted to kill myself. Like, I'm a pretty technical guy, but it was so frustrating. And like, but once I finally got it to work, I was so happy.
It's a really cool piece of software, but
Yeah.
it's just so boring looking, and because of that, it's such a grind to actually get into and figure out stuff.
Yeah, and we've been spoiled with everything Apple intuitive lately. So to go backwards, it was I felt like 10 years ago. But it works,
Yeah.
you know, and for free. I mean, you can't beat that.
Right. I'm very happy for a very robust free option right now.
Yeah.
On board with that.
Right. It kind of seems like if you are some sort of content creator, you're at home alone, and if you have the means, like, yeah, pick up a camera, you don't even need a camera, really. You can use your webcam on your laptop, but just figure out how to edit, shoot something great, and the world is there for you. I mean, it's the most level playing field it's ever been for anything.
Yeah, it's really exciting in a way. You know, there's definitely the thing that I've sort of had to accept the most is that there's a pretty good chance that my line of work, as far as the thing that makes me more money between stand up and writing, is the writing. And that's going to be something that I have a pretty good idea I'll be doing mostly from home.
Yeah.
When shows start back up again, all my friends who are in writers' rooms right now are doing it all virtual. And there's a couple chances, like you might be going back on set. Like we were supposed to be shooting MasterChef again starting back in like October because we had to shut down when COVID hit. But based on the production guidelines, you know, I might not wind up being on set nearly as much as I was before, just because they're really trying to keep it to essential personnel. I might just be writing scripts from home and then calling in, or like showing up to do a read through and then coming home. But who knows? It's like, I think that the way I think about the space of my own apartment and how I use it is so different now. Because like, I want to make sure that I've gone through like 3 different podcasting setups. Like now I'm in this place where it's like, oh yeah, this is the perfect size to keep the desk and my laptop and my microphone. But it took me, what is it, 5 months to figure out what seems like a very simple thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything about our life is going to be different now. Like they used to promote like houses and apartments, be like, oh, look, it has a guest room. We're like, I don't want any guests here. I want a podcast room and like a panic room with like a shower so I can just wash instantly when I come home.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I need to be able to, like have just the hottest water possible. Let's get like a lab shower where you just pull the handle.
I want Austin Powers. I want to walk in, shower me, everything gets disintegrated, and I'm clean, and I go right to podcasting.
It's perfect. That's the perfect life right now.
Yeah. So as a writer right now, are you able to, like, what's it like trying to get work? Are you already on a show, or is it just everyone's more like on hiatus?
It kind of depends. You know, I've had a couple of gigs during this. I just finished writing on a game show pilot that was, keeping me busy for a solid 3 weeks. Pretty much most of July I was working on this, and I was doing that entirely from home. And MasterChef, like I said, is supposed to come back in a couple months. But that is realistically because we have so little of the season left to shoot. That'll probably only be a couple weeks. I had a job interview for a job that, fingers crossed, will start in beginning of September. And that's supposed to be about 5 weeks of work. We're still waiting to hear the official details for that. So it's nice. Like I'm still getting work and I'm still keeping busy. But the thing I do miss is like going in person to be around other people. Like even my last job on MasterChef, I was the only writer working that season. We didn't have a couple writers, but even just being in the room with somebody else to like bounce ideas off of is great.
It's nice.
And when I heard the showrunner of this show I'm supposed to go in on say, all right, well, when we go to set, there's only going to be one person per office. And
Hmm.
I was like, cool, I'll have an office, but also I'm just like, oh, I'm not going to be able to like bounce my dumb ideas off of somebody else without
Yeah.
having to walk down a one-way hallway and get my temperature checked every single step of the way.
Yeah, we miss the human connection. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
human connection today was I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to Jay's album, but I'm gonna do it in my car and I'll drive around. And I felt like, oh, there's a person on the street. I'm like, I'm not alone because I mean, I'm in the valley, not too far from people, but it still feels like you're like, oh, like I could just be here for a week and never see people.
Yeah, I've found myself anytime I go out and run errands, I'm having a lot more conversations with cashiers
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
grocery stores because it's just like we're starved for it. Like I love my girlfriend, but I don't, we don't want to talk to each other all the
Right.
time.
That's a good
It's
point. Like nobody's relationship, whether office, personal, was meant for this setup. Like no one said yes to this, like being locked up 24/7, being working remote. And so people are going to reevaluate like the relationships they actually want if it's going to continue down this socially distanced path.
right. I think that I've seen pretty much anybody I know who was already in a relationship when this happened, they either broke up very quickly
Yeah.
or they like super locked it down, like moved in
Yeah. A lot of
together,
marriages.
got engaged, got
Yeah.
married. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like rocket fuel for the relationship.
Yeah. Well, because you see so much of that person
Yeah.
in ways that you might not have been seeing because you're just locked in with them. You're there all the time with them. Like my girlfriend and I have been talking about like, oh, maybe we should move out of the city a little bit and go buy a place that's a little bit outside. But like
Right.
if we're working from home, who cares? I
Yeah.
don't need to live right in the thick of it anymore
No,
necessarily.
not at all. If anything, you'd enjoy the drive a little bit. And it's like there's always like these push and pulls with the cities. It's like, oh, like urbanization is good. Like everyone wants to be near everything. And then it's like, oh, no, suburbs are good. We want space. And it feels like every 20 years we go in and out, in and out. And now we're in an
Hmm.
out phase.
Yeah, we're definitely exhaling right now.
Yeah. And then, then our
Everything's
kids will be
spreading.
like, oh, no, I want to live like right near COVID. You're like, all right, fine.
Right. Yeah. I didn't catch COVID before. I want to see if I can get it.
Yeah. That's going to be weird. At some point, this will be like the history books. They'll discuss it, they'll analyze it. The great
Oh
COVID
yeah.
2020.
2020 it's such a weird year, man.
Yeah.
It's a weird year. I'm turning 30 today. It's a
Okay.
weird time to be 30 and
Yeah.
have like a birthday and hit a new decade.
Yeah. Oh, you're so young.
I feel older than I did, but it's just like, oh yeah, well this is just fine. It is like there's
Yeah.
so much left. Like I'm excited to think about. Somebody asked me this morning what you think the rest of this year will be like my 30th year. And I do think probably by this time next year, things will be as close to normal as we'll be able to get. And
Yeah.
that's cool. Like I have a lot of hope for that. It's just, it's nice to feel relatively optimistic instead of just in panic mode. Like I know a lot of my friends are.
Yeah. It's also an accelerant like COVID in 2020 for your personality. It's like, all right, well, you kind of become more of a grown up. You're like, all right, I need to be self disciplined. It all relies on me. Or you become more
Mhm.
of a child. You're like, I'll just play more video games, more
Yes.
chill, more hang.
I mean, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna hop back on and play my N64 again because
Oh, nice.
I've been loving it.
I wish I never sold mine. What do you play on there?
Right now, I'm playing Banjo Kazooie again.
Oh, nice. I never got into that one, but
Oh, it's so great! It's
yeah.
so fun.
I remember Zelda was amazing on it, and obviously
Mhm.
GoldenEye. Those two were
Yep.
just epic.
Yeah, I love both of those. And then I'm a big like Mario Tennis fan.
Oh yeah, Mario.
Smash Brothers.
Yeah. Well, now that you're all OBS set up, why don't you stream your video games on Twitch?
I have to get the right cables for that. And the problem is that all of those cables sold out at the very beginning of this because everybody was like, oh, I'm going to start streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
And
oh, right. Because
so-
it's probably before HDMI. It's probably like just 3 like RGB or something.
Yeah. So I have to get an HDMI adapter
Yeah.
I finally was able to get my hands on a capture card like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice. Which one did you get?
I got some little cheap one. It cost me like $25, but I did plenty of, research beforehand. I think what happened was somebody figured out like, oh, this is basically all of the stuff that you see in the brand name ones. I'm just going to get some Chinese manufacturers to make this real cheap.
Yeah.
And we're going to sell it for a tenth of the cost of a regular capture card. And it works just as well.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna have to get that name off you, because I just picked up the Elgato and it's fine, but it's pricey. And I was thinking about sending it back.
Yeah, send it back. I'll send you this other one, because I think they're still, they're branded under 3 of those weird like amalgamation of letters names on Amazon, but it's great. It's gotten very, very good reviews. I'm a fan.
It's globalization. Like, I think at some point the Chinese manufacturers, they're like, wait a minute, or wherever they're from, they're like, wait a minute, I see what's going on here. Let me just cut out the middleman and sell it direct.
Yeah, it's the smart move.
Because a lot of it's marketed, like, the brand name, everything, it looks nice. It has like nicer lights on it, but you're paying for that. You're paying salaries for people to design it, to market it. And if you know the technical piece you want, it's just like going direct to the supplier.
Right. And that way, it's like buying the generics at the drugstore instead of the name brands. Like, it works just as well. I'm totally fine to take the CVS brand acetaminophen over the Motrin.
Yeah, you're acting like a manufacturer yourself, because like an IBM or a Apple, they're not going to buy a brand name piece to put in their computer. They're going to get parts to put on, and they're the brand name. So why? Yeah, it seems silly.
But people want ease. That's the thing. And they see the thing that pops up the most is, oh, this is the brand name. They know what they're doing. Cool. I'll buy that.
Right. Yeah. That's why brands work. There's trust in like Tide versus like, I guess, generic detergent. Because it's worked for years.
I think that's the thing, though. It's like I've spent part of being forced to like really examine what I need versus what doesn't really serve me. It's really focused during all of this. It's like I'm doing so much more research on the things that I'm buying or the things that I'm spending my time doing.
Yeah. Are you reading more?
Thing. I am. I just finished. I finished 2 books.
Nice.
I've got another one that I'm working my way through. It's a book of short stories, but I read a novel by another great comic, Sam Talent. I just finished his book. It's called Running the Light. It's very good.
Oh, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Running the Light.
Yeah, right. But right now I'm reading some short stories.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
I've been reading like all the classics I never read. I started with Hemingway. I did Farewell to Arms, and I have this huge list of like, all right, I'm going to read all these books I've always wanted to read, watch all these classic movies I always thought I was going to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of like self-educating myself in a way.
That's what I've been doing a lot of that with movies, watching a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff that have passed me by.
Yeah. Criterion Channel is great for like the real old stuff.
I got to get that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like definitely like 30s to 50s, 60s a little bit. And then I also got Netflix DVDs, which are great to get what you need. Cause like,
oh yeah, because they got such a huge selection.
Yeah, and there's no like I get so frustrated. I might find it, it's like not available. And I'm just like, the DVDs have almost everything. It's old school. There's something nice about just putting it on.
I might get the Netflix DVDs back again. I've been watching I have a couple friends of mine and I basically have started like a COVID-19 movie club where we rotate picking a movie and we watch it every week or couple days, depending on work schedules. And that's been fun too, to just because a lot of the movies that we're watching are movies that we haven't seen. Though sometimes it's a nightmare. Like we spent a whole week basically trying to top each other watching bad movies.
Yeah.
And it was one of the worst weeks of my life. We all accelerated, like we moved shit around just so we could sit down and watch these terrible movies in order to get through that nightmare of a week.
Yeah. And movies do require some focus. Like sometimes I have my phone near me and it's like, oh, you can't really do that, especially with a classic. It's like, it's going to move slower. You're going to miss like
Yeah.
kind of like the nuance of it. So like two screen watching is also this new cultural thing, which is, I think, why a lot of these shows work. It's like, oh, this is a great two screen show. Like you don't need to have too much invested in it. You can be on your phone tweeting and watching it.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been trying to do as little of that as possible because the temptation is there, but I really try and put my phone away, like even put it on do not disturb or airplane mode sometimes if it's like, oh, I really want to pay attention to this movie
Yeah.
or to this show.
Totally. Another thing I did during quarantine was like, all right, like I'm going to write a script. Something I always wanted to do. And I wrote a Dave spec.
Okay.
Have you seen Dave, the show on FX?
I haven't. It's on my list, but it's the Little Dicky show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, I spent a lot of years in music, in the music business. So like I know it well. And it just felt like I was like, oh, I know these scenarios, and they really nailed a lot of the truth that comes in those music scenes, especially like in the label scenes and stuff. So I wrote a spec, and I want to ask you, like, what do I do with it now?
With your spec?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing with specs is they're good to have in your arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, they're the kind of thing that a lot of writing fellowships that are run by production companies or studios will ask for specs as part of the process. If it's is this your first spec?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, have you sent it out to anybody to get notes?
Yeah, I've sent it out to a few people. I got some notes. I made some changes. I punched it up.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, once you feel like it's in a good place, add it. Basically, it's like a good thing to have in your portfolio, and then start on something else. Like one of the best, when I was first writing stuff, I wrote some specs. I wrote a New Girl spec to tell you. That's how long ago it was when I was writing. I was like,
New Girl was specs.
New. Oh man. Yeah, I think it was like second season. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. This will be around forever.
But I had a spec that I felt good about for the show, and then people in the industry were like, this is cool, but you should also have an original, like a feature script or
I'm halfway through that right now. Original script.
There you go. Yeah. So you're making the next thing, because people like knowing that you not only can like slot in and figure out how to write in their format, but they also want to know that you have enough of a, they want to see your particular point of view and your worldview through your own voice. And then they can figure out like, all right, cool. This is what Latif is good at, and how can we use his brain in our writer's room?
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I was going to finish the feature script and then also work on a second spec, and I was going to have like a little portfolio of stuff, basically.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's a good thing to have. Like, I have a portfolio that basically, I mean, anytime I have to submit for stuff, I'll basically send like roast jokes that are like my favorites. I do a lot of, as far as like packet submissions, it's all stuff for late night variety. So they pretty strict guidelines is what they're looking for, but it's sketches, monologue jokes.
Right.
But of course I do have like, I've got a pilot and a couple features, and I'm working on a new feature right now, just because I haven't written a feature in a little bit, and there's something that I've been wanting to do, and like I'm in the sort of stopping phase of that, just because I've been busy doing other stuff. But like I've got some other ideas, like I'm developing a game show right now, and I've got these other actual jobs that are coming down the pipeline soon, and maybe this other game show pilot that I wrote on. Like now I'm just spinning the plates and seeing what I'll be able to put some food on next.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It is different with the feature, because I think I crossed like page like 40 or 45, and it's like, oh, well, with a 22-minute show, I already would be in the punch-up phase. I'd already be editing it. There's this like more instant gratification, where this is more of like a longer slog.
Right. That's the thing I've sort of noticed now. It's like, I feel like TV it's easy to write because it also feels like it's personal, right? Like to some degree, writing a feature, it's cool because you get to showcase your own, same thing as writing anything. You're showing your
Yeah.
point of view, you're showing your chops, but it's a little impersonal
Right.
because the project might just sell and somebody else might make it, and then you're just the writer, you know?
Yeah. Or yeah, it might be changed. Like a little essence of what you wrote is there, but it's out of your hands, so to speak. And one of
Right.
these features ideas is like I really like in the ultimate world, like I really want to make this film. Like I wouldn't want to hand it off, but since I'm newer in the game, I would be totally fine with it. But there's that piece of you where it's like, oh, I'd love to just do it auteur style and like make it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, there's a couple of the scripts that I've written that I definitely feel that way towards. Right now, the one I'm working on is one that's in the opposite vein, where it's the one that I'd be like, I want to I would be happy to sell this and to see somebody make it. I don't
Yeah.
have to be the one who's close to it. And I
Right.
think that there's a part of that that's making it harder to write too, because there is I'm really excited about the idea, but it's it's hard to sit down and write something that I'm also thinking, oh, okay, this is probably something that I will hopefully sell and just have no part in after the fact. But
Yeah.
I gotta, I'll kick my own ass a little bit and get back in there.
Yeah. And sometimes different doors open and it's not the one you planned for. And you just got to evaluate at the time. Be like, all right, well, this is on the table. How dedicated to my auteurness am I,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's how I approached when I got into TV writing.
Yeah.
Most of my writing jobs have been nowhere near the kinds of shows and the kinds of work that I thought I was going to be doing when I started to consider comedy as a career.
Right.
I'm writing in almost exclusively like competition,
Hmm.
game shows, reality shows, and I love it. It's great. It's fun work. It's not the most mentally taxing. So I feel like I can still put a lot of energy towards going out and performing stand up
Hmm.
or working on podcasts or other projects with
Right.
friends. Um,
And is it in a way like more just being funny because humor is not the main driver of these shows, right? So you're just trying to create funny situations within these kind of reality based shows?
Kinda like I wrote a lot on MasterChef
Hmm.
where we're writing a script and I treat it the same way that I would pretty much any script where I'm just like, all right, I have to look at it and just figure out where I can put jokes in as much as I can.
Right.
But the show is not a comedy show. And so I have to also make sure that the comedy is not like overwhelming. Like when I write a sitcom spec or a comedy thing,
Hmm.
I'm trying to write a lot of jokes on the page, right?
Yeah.
But for this, it's like, okay, I have to make sure that I'm getting like the format across of the show that I'm doing. If
Hmm.
I can put jokes in, cool,
Yeah.
great. And sometimes I'm doing stuff where I'm like writing for the room, where it's like I know that the producers will laugh at this, even though it's going to get cut. Because sometimes you just got to do stuff in those shows that are like fun for you, and you know
Yeah.
that they're going to go away. Because I
Yeah.
watch MasterChef and see, because of the nature of the show, a lot of what I'm writing is not going to make it in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, as long as we're having fun
Right.
creating the product and having that fun on set while we're filming, doesn't really matter if some of the stuff goes away. I just, I feel like I'm doing my job better than just somebody who's like, I'm just going to stick to the format. And I
Right.
feel like everybody's having a better time that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what that's what comedy is. You're pushing the envelope a little bit and you're making yourself known to be funny, which I'm sure they'll consider more of your ideas because of that. And makes you more personable. It's overall a win-win to take that approach, I think.
Yeah. Well, then that's the other thing too. It's like I get because I have that point of view. I think it makes when I do have an idea that is more of a serious or logistical thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I can express that without having to try and make it funny, and then they
Yeah.
can actually look at the idea and be like, "Oh yeah, oh that's solid."
Yeah.
But there's even things in doing that I didn't anticipate too. It's like sometimes Yeah, I didn't realize. I think part of this comes from the roast background, but like I was writing scripts for the last season of MasterChef, and the EPs, they kept hitting me. They're like, you're phrasing your sentences very negatively.
Mm.
You're saying a lot of like not or like no, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I gotta write from the. I gotta be encouraging these people because they're competing to try and win. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like shit on these people, even though it's
Right.
Gordon Ramsay who's great at shitting on
Yeah.
people.
They pull you aside. Jay, listen, we love what you're doing here. This chef blows doesn't really sell what
Yeah.
we're trying to do.
We'll let Gordon improv that, but don't have it in the script.
Right, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. I was talking to JF Harris, and he writes for or wrote for Magic for Humans, which is like another show where it's like, oh, you didn't know you'd have a comedy writer on these shows, and I think this is very insightful for people trying to get into comedy writing to be like, oh, comedy is now in a lot of different things. It's not just writing for, the sitcom or the Tonight Show. It's in a lot of other shows you wouldn't normally think of.
Yeah, I think, well, because everybody always needs a little bit of comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like, even great drama television or great dramatic movies have to have some levity to them.
Yeah.
If with no comedy, there's no humanity to what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes super dark and super, I guess, European.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not trying to make Lars von Trier movies. All right.
Yeah.
Really
good reference. There you go. Well, we usually wrap up by talking about goals, and this is such, the worst year to have goals, but it is also our new normal. So like, what are some of your comedy and life goals for this next year?
Well, the next year, I really would like to finish this feature script that I've been chipping away at.
Nice. How far in are you?
I'm through the first act at least. Like I'm writing a horror movie script, and the killer at least has been introduced into starting to kill people.
Oh,
so
great.
That's a good spot to be. Now I just have to go in and write the rest of the scenes.
Right. Blumhouse.
Hey, shout out. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I know you need some Hulu originals.
Yeah.
That's the biggest goal. And then the next like comedy related goal is I really want to actually sit down and go through all of the material that I'd been working on pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And see what I don't feel interested in talking about anymore. And I have like it's right here right now, my notebook.
Yeah.
And my new notebook, the old one that just literally is falling apart because there's stuff that I don't really want to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
And I have to figure out like what are the ideas that are worth talking about now, and what are the things that I'm going to enjoy bringing up again, or is it stuff that like, okay, cool, maybe I can flip this into something else.
Yeah.
Or just start fresh. Like, I have the album out. It's a great time to take a look at what I've been trying to build as whatever the next set would be and say, oh yeah, no, this joke wasn't working, or I didn't really like this joke, or this isn't what I'm trying to say now. So I think that's the next like comedy examination thing.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, because there's going to be your internal version of that, which is like, this doesn't make sense for me anymore because the world has fundamentally changed and I'm a different person. So you'll let go of some things. And then the audience will also have their own version of that, which is like, I don't think I want to listen to this, or I'm interested in more or less of this because the world has changed.
Right.
So we're going to be balancing those two changes, and it's going to be a very interesting year. And we'll all like watch people do the COVID jokes, the obvious ones we've all come up with in our mind. And then,
oh yeah.
Well,
and then try and come up with the creative, unique COVID joke.
Right. It's kind of like the Michael Jackson thing. They'll be like, most of them will be like, all right, yeah, we all thought of that. And then there'll be 5 that are just like amazing.
Right. Yeah, or the Tiger King thing. That's the nice thing. I'm glad we've moved on from the point in the pandemic where everybody was making like the same 6 or 7 jokes all the time. And I think the herd has thinned a little bit, as far as some people have just given up, or some people have actually really sharpened and dove into themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, if your new joke back is a Tiger King joke, it's got to be fire. Like, it has to be like the most original take if you're going to talk about something from March.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Jay. I really appreciate it. It was good talking with you. It feels like it's been years, but it's only been 5 months. So
I know, man. It's so crazy. It's great to see you. It's great to get to connect. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Before you go, plug your stuff. Tell us the name of your album, where to find it.
Yeah. So the album's out now. It's called Good Guy with a Gun. You can get it wherever you get your music, buy or stream.
Yeah.
And you can find me on social media at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, and jlightcomedy.com for any updates and show stuff that I'm doing right now.
And if you listen to it on Spotify like me, don't be thrown by the guy's face on there that doesn't look like this lovely face. There's another J Light on there.
Who just started releasing music this year. I don't know who that is.
Reach out to your label and see if they can kind of create 2 different profiles, because you're going to be lumped together for a while.
Yeah, there's the same. I gotta hit them up. That's probably worth figuring out.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy your birthday. Happy birthday, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Later.